Right, okay, hello again everybody, and if it sounds like these sorts of videos are becoming a little bit tedious and a little bit old, it's because, quite frankly, this whole situation for me is becoming quite tedious and quite old. And right now I am just very, very tired. In fact, today it got to be so bad that I had to do something to actually release the valve a little bit, such as get not but one new shirt, but two new shirts. See that? So yeah, so again, the reason why I've done is because honestly, a light on a distant mirror. The reason why I did it, and to be honest, one, I kind of needed some new clothes anyway. So there's at least 4 or 5 more shirts I do need to get, and to be honest, I have three 5-finger Death Punch shirts already. Quite frankly, I could do with at least maybe 2 more. Maybe maybe 2 new nice set of pants, and probably 3 new pairs of jeans. One navy blue, one black, and probably, I don't know, maybe something in red. I don't know, maybe like something a bit different. Or maybe like a nice red jacket, like a red leather jacket, maybe with something, I don't know, maybe Judas Priest on it, and then maybe an actual, like, at least some new hoodies, like, because I know fine well there's websites out there in which I can actually design my own hoodies and stuff like that. I've done it before, but we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, you see, I had to do some sort of what I'm going to call an open day, if you will, for a position for the Royal Mail. And to be honest, it was one of those occasions where, quite frankly, I could have just stayed in bed and have done the application there, for all the difference it makes. Because it was nothing I haven't seen before when I was inside the depot, and it was nothing that I haven't been told to before, except the only difference being is that I was one of 2 people that actually turned up, and whenever the manager ever spoke to me about something, the other person who was there, a lady in about her mid-40s who previously worked for the Mail, with basically sort of like a very something by about, let's say, Newcastle, straight out of Glasgow, because she had a slight Glaswegian accent. Every time I went to ask something, she kind of like pretended to half stumble and stuff like that. And to be honest, I think she could tell by the way I was kind of just like, I gave her like a very small like glimpse out of the corner of my eye, just to let her know that I was watching her, and because she did this a few times, and it was very, very difficult to get a word in. And to be honest, I kind of just stopped talking because, to be honest, I just kind of wanted to get out of there. Simple as that. Because with the staffing agency, who I've had problems with before earlier this year in terms of trying to find work, this was the same agency that when I tried to ring up and I was asking, can I be transferred to this depot because they're looking for work. I have friends, family who will put in words for me because they've worked there and stuff like that. By the end of the conversation I was having with at least one of their operators, he was starting to sigh about 3 times in the span of a minute, in the sort of way that you could say, well, he just wanted to end the conversation because he didn't want to talk to me anymore. I've wasted 3 weeks of my life just this year in doing training with customer service, and that's because that's the standard where we are at. And quite frankly, I still can't, and that was nearly 3 weeks ago when that happened, and I can hardly believe it myself. I am absolutely stunned beyond words that is the standard of customer service here in the UK. I am absolutely staggered. And this whole nonsense about the stupid. By the time I get to talk about the whole story about my problems I've had with the launch group, and I certainly will, But quite frankly, it's a very long story. It's very, very tedious. And quite frankly, no matter what I say, no matter how many times I complain, no matter how many times I raise the issue, they don't really seem to understand where I'm coming from. They don't really seem to understand why I've got a cob on with them. But then again, that's the kind of problems I've had with the DWP about this whole thing about having to go all the way to Morpeth to do this thing for the Royal Mail anyway. What was the point of sending me all the way over there if it was just a thing I had to fill out online? Why couldn't I have just stayed in bed and done that? And it's not exactly as if they don't know about, you know, my desperation and my anxieties and my anxiousness and, quite frankly, my my restless desire for this whole nonsense to be over. You may have heard me mention this a few times before, but I consider myself to be actually, over the last at least 3 months, to become incredibly restless, because I'm not happy about the way things are. And quite frankly, no matter how much I rage, no matter how much I work, no matter how much I make an effort, I still, to this day, and probably for the rest of my life, won't ever quite come to terms with the fact that why does nobody else out there in the world right now understand, or at least, you know, what am I supposed to do is what I'm trying to get across. What am I supposed to do for people? What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to propose that can get people to understand that, guess what, I'm not like other people. I don't want to be like other people. I want to be myself. I want to excel and do well in life based on the things I'm good at and I want to do good at, and that I can prove to people that I want to. I do not have time, ladies and gentlemen, for people who honestly, who are brazen enough to say that they legitimately don't care. I'll tell you exactly, you know, I may as well tell you just very quickly the day where it all went wrong. I was 20 years old, back in 2018. I was doing a presentation for one of my animation classes. I was explaining about exactly what I was wanting to do, about my methodology, my research, who I based my inspiration off. I talked about the camera angles, the zooming, the framing devices. I talked about every single thing you could imagine, the textures, the lighting, the color, the positions of the camera, the trolleying, the dollying, everything like that. I talked about all of this, and by the time they got to the end, all the lecturer could think to do was put his face in his hands and say nothing. He was more than willing to have his say about everybody else's project except mine. Honestly, right there and then, I knew at that point that, you know, whatever career I had in animation was completely dead in the water, because if that's the kind of attitude I was going to get when I was in uni, goodness knows what I was going to get when I was in the outside world. And that was over 7 years ago when that happened, and I'm still not over it, because I'm sitting here, standing here, and I'm just trying to tell to you guys, 1, it's not normal, 2, it's not fair, 3, it's completely unreasonable, and 4, at no point about it was it my fault. And you know what? Especially with the last one, I have to come to terms with the fact that the things that have happened to me are not my fault. And you know why they're not my fault? Because I didn't ask for any of this to happen. What did I do to deserve any of this? Because I'm only asking because right now I don't understand, and I don't know what I was supposed to have done. So, you know what? I think I'm just going to bring this video to an end. But just to let you know, guys, I couldn't imagine for 1 second that this is going to go on for much longer, because my life is too short and too important to me to be wasting it on people whoever they say they are, that they don't really do it for the benefit of actually helping me. And I suggest the rest of the world really needs to start thinking through its attitude with me. Because as I said before, I don't believe this is my fault. I really don't. So because for all the difference this makes, and people can try as hard as they want to convince me otherwise, unless actually anything changes for the better for me, what's the point? What is the point?